Hey guys, as part of my year of rereading, I'm going to be talking about Austenland by Shannon Hale. In Austenland by Shannon Hale, Jane Hayes has had no luck with men. Her dream man is Mr. Darcy, as played by Colin Firth in the BBC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Jane's fantasies become a reality after a wealthy relative bequeaths her a 3-week vacation to a place called Austenland, a resort and escape for women who love all things Austen. Empire waist gowns, no modern technology, and flirting with men dressed in Regency-era clothing. Could this be the therapy Jane needs to sort out her life? As I mentioned, Austenland by Shannon Hale is part of my year of rereading that I am going on through this year of 2021. And according to Goodreads, the last time I read this book was way back in 2011. So yeah, it's been a decade. And it's just weird because I also read Memoirs of a Geisha, which is part of my year of rereading. And I also last reread that book in 2011, so it's making me think 2011 must have been a great year of reading for me, because yeah, that's 2 books in a row, just coincidentally, that I read back in 2011. So, yeah, Austenland. I freaking love this book. I think all of us who love all things Jane Austen, there's a lot we can relate to in this that might be a little shameful. But yeah. Instead of doing like a traditional sort of book review as I tend to do with these videos, I'm going to give you guys 5 reasons why I love this book and why you may or may not like it, I guess. And yeah, I don't plan on having anything spoilery related in this video, so you can continue to watch as you wish. So, the first reason that I love and adore this book, this may be a little silly, this may just be me, but this book, you guys, I think it has the best book dedication of all time. Like I said, maybe this is a little silly. You know, when you read a book, an author usually has their book dedication, like I dedicate this book to so-and-so, or in the memory of somebody, or, you know, or yeah, they might just have a name listed, and we're all like, well, I don't know who that is, but to the author, that's somebody, and the person will know, obviously. So, book dedications, you know, will vary. Sometimes there'll be just a name, there'll be something short, there'll be something maybe a little bit longer with a quote or something. But yeah, Shannon Hale, you guys, this is her book dedication. And seriously, as I mentioned, it has to be the best book dedication of all time. For Colin Firth, you're a really great guy, but I'm married, so I think we should just be friends. Perfect. Genius. Amazing. If I ever wrote a book, I might be like, hey, this is for whoever my favorite actor is. I might just dedicate it to them. I love this. You guys, like I said, maybe it's silly, maybe it's just me, but I feel like that book dedication, it lets you know immediately what you're in for with this book. And yeah, I guess I should explain. Let me explain Colin Firth in case there's a random person watching this video and you're thinking, who the hell is Colin Firth? I feel like if you're watching this video, you already know, but let me just explain. Because in 1995, there was a very extremely popular miniseries adaptation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. And it starred Colin Firth, who played Mr. Darcy. And boy oh boy, that adaptation, even to this day, continues to be very wildly popular. And a lot of the popularity is due to Colin Firth's portrayal of Mr. Darcy in that miniseries. And you guys, I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, as much as I love Pride and Prejudice, I have never seen the Colin Firth adaptation. Yeah, just throw it at me, go ahead. Cry blasphemy. The thing is, even though I have never seen that adaptation, I've always wanted to. I'm dying to watch it. I just need to find a good copy of it. You know, I need to find a good copy to get my hands on so I can binge it. The thing is, though, the book dedication, I still get the sentiment, because for me, like, my Mr. Darcy would be, it would be Matthew McFadden's Mr. Darcy from the 2005 adaptation that had Keira Knightley and whatnot. So yeah, even though I've never seen the Colin Firth adaptation, this book dedication, I still get the sentiment behind it, because it would, like I said, it would be the equivalent of like Matthew McFadden for me. So yeah, that's one of my first reasons, you guys, why this book is great, is just that book dedication. Maybe silly, but I love it. So my book dedication kind of leads me into my second reason why I love this book, and that's just that this book is absolutely freaking hilarious. As I kind of already mentioned, the book dedication lets you know immediately, I feel like, from the get-go, that this book is going to be wild and funny and silly and absurd. And I love the humor of this book. The humor in this book, it just really speaks to me. I get it. I understand it. I feel like if you're someone who loves to read, if you love literature, if you love hot British men, if you love British period dramas, this book is going to be the book for you, because you're going to just get it. Things are going to click with you. How Jane is feeling, her moods, her attitudes, her commentary, her sense of humor. It's just going to be stuff that I think anybody like that is going to just immediately connect and click with. And yeah, this book, it's just so wildly funny and hilarious. There are so many laugh out loud moments in this, and it takes a lot for me to physically laugh out loud when I'm reading a book, and I feel like whenever I do physically laugh out loud, I always think that's a good sign of a good job from an author, you know, their creative abilities with writing, you know, if I'm able to laugh. And the thing is, I've reread this book quite a few times. This is probably easily my third or fourth time rereading this book, and you would almost think after a while the humor, it would maybe grow stale and it wouldn't be as funny anymore. But even after this reread, it was still amusing to me, which I think is a good sign. And I think why this book continues to be so funny, I think especially to me personally, is, like I said, the last time I reread this book was a good decade ago, and I'm a decade older now, and the character in this book is she 32? I think the character is 32. So a decade ago, I was, you know, in my 20s, now I'm in my 30s, so I'm much closer in age to Jane's character in here. So there was just a lot of things that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of get that now. I didn't get it in my 20s, but I get it now in my 30s. And yeah, this book is definitely what you would probably classify as a chick lit. I don't think that demeans it in any way. You know, sometimes, every so often, you just want a light, fluffy, silly book. Especially like for me, I tend to read a lot of really dark and heavy stuff. And every so often, it's like I kind of like a nice little short, fluffy, silly book like this, and it makes my day. My third favorite reason that I love this book, the book kind of makes me wish that a real Austenland existed, because I would totally go. So, let me explain Austenland, if you have never read this book and you're kind of just confused about what the hell this place even is. Austenland, as described in this book, it's a sort of resort, if you will. A resort for all things Jane Austen and for Jane Austen enthusiasts to travel to. You essentially go to this estate that's in England. You're dropped off at like a kind of a meeting zone, and you're stripped of your modern clothing, stripped of your modern technology. You're given a Regency era clothing, and you're kind of given a very quick crash course into the era. You gotta learn the etiquette, the manners, the mannerisms, the roles of women, the roles of men, and whatnot. You gotta learn all these various different things a crash course, as I said. And then you get in a horse-drawn carriage and you travel down to this really grand, lovely estate, and you spend your trip or your vacation, however you want to view it. You spend however many weeks at this lovely grand estate, and you interact with other guests, paying guests, and you also interact with actors who are there to really enhance the experience and really immerse you into the experience. And yeah, it's kind of it's a little difficult initially, like, okay, who are the actors, who are the guests? But it's kind of obvious who the guests are, because in the book especially, there's like one lady. She's clearly American, but she's trying to put on this fake British accent. So, of course, she's a guest and not an actor and whatnot. Because the actors are definitely taking it much more seriously, and they never break character and whatnot. And the big thing about Austenland, this resort, it promises this idea, this notion of love, if you will. Because the male actors are essentially hired to flirt with you and possibly give you like a fake proposal by the end of your stay. And that's what this whole thing is, this whole park. It's just a game, you know? It's not reality, it's a game. But that's kind of just it for the character of Jane, that this resort offers a form of therapy for her because of just some issues she's been having with men in her life. And there's something about the idea of this resort that's kind of speaking to her and kind of making her look inward on herself, realize some of her own problems, realize how she handles men, and how she can kind of grow and develop from that in a weird sort of way. So yeah, the whole idea of Austenland, there are some rather problematic things in it. Like I said, this book is over a decade old, and so there are some elements about it that, maybe now it probably would be a little problematic and unhealthy, but still, at the same time, I do like the idea of an Austenland resort park to go to. I think that would be really fun. I personally, because I love all things British period dramas, I would absolutely love to dress up in the clothing. I might not like the corset, but I would deal with it. Yeah, hanging out and yeah, doing a little flirting. It would be great, you guys. I think I would like it. I would probably be a little shy and timid initially, but I think I would really get into it possibly. I think this would be the great type of thing, like, to go with a group of, like, friends. You know what I mean? Take a bunch of your girlfriends with you and go crazy. So, my fourth favorite reason why I love this book is the relatability factor. And I've kind of already gone into this in some of my previous areas that I've already discussed. Yeah, because Jane, she's someone who loves Jane Austen. She's had problems with men. She's a little awkward and silly and whatnot. I think a lot of us can relate to that. So, this is Jane's problem, her exact problem. She has a very unhealthy obsession with the 1995 BBC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, as I mentioned, starring Colin Firth. She has a very, very unhealthy relationship. And what I mean by that, the way this book is kind of divided up in between the chapters, you have your chapters where you're at Austenland, but in between every chapter, there's a page, and Jane tells us about each of her boyfriends that she's had through the years. And each of the boyfriends, in some way, she sits and relates to Mr. Darcy, if they can even compare. For instance, a great example of this, she has one boyfriend that he's laughing about something and he snorts. And then all of a sudden it occurs to Jane, oh my god, he snorts. That's not very attractive. Mr. Darcy would never snort. And then she ends the relationship because of something so stupid and silly like that. So that's the kind of thing you're getting with in this book, is all these little brief interludes with each of Jane's boyfriends. Some of them last for a couple days, some of them last for a couple weeks, a couple months. Yeah, she only has a couple that last for like a little over a year or so. But yeah, each boyfriend she compares to Mr. Darcy. And so yeah, she definitely has this very unhealthy obsession and attachment with Mr. Darcy as a whole. She compares the entire time. And yeah, that's what this resort is offering, as I already mentioned, a sort of therapy for her to deal out her issues and kind of realize, okay, I need to move on from that. And my fifth favorite reason why I love this book, the characters, you guys, simply just the characters. These characters are simply fun, they are laugh out loud hilarious, they are over the top. The characters, they're definitely highly silly, and they're probably definitely like archetypes, if you will. Nobody is particularly very well fleshed out, if you know what I mean, because we are in Jane's point of view. After all, she is really the only one we are getting any sort of character development for and whatnot. Nobody else really gets any sort of character development. But still, despite that, it's like Shannon Hale manages to create some really great characters that you either love or you hate. There's a couple that's like, oh my god, I hate these people. So yeah, I think this book is definitely worthwhile for these really highly enjoyable characters. So that's it for my thoughts and feelings on Austenland. I loved this rereading of this book, as I mentioned a couple times already. Last time I read this book was a good decade ago, so it's been really nice to revisit this novel, see if it still holds up, and I'm glad to say it still held up for me personally. I still found it enjoyable, entertaining, laugh out loud funny. Yeah, I definitely recommend this book if you love all things Jane Austen, if you love all things Pride and Prejudice. I think this is definitely going to be the sort of thing that you're going to find some sort of relatability to. So yeah, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.